Hey, let me tell you a story. I saw a casting call online. It looked simple, short, just a few lines of text. Horror film, independent production, no experience required, all roles paid, full immersion preferred. I sent a photo and forgot about it. 2 hours later they replied. They said had the look they were after, the kind that doesn't pretend, the kind that reacts naturally. They invited me for a trial shoot on Saturday, 4 p.m., in an old villa on the edge of town. I didn't think twice. When I arrived, the place looked like a real film set. Big lights outside, cameras on tripods, someone holding a boom mic near the door. There were about 15 people already waiting, sitting quietly, some sipping coffee, some scrolling through their phones. The vibe was calm, but focused, like something was about to happen, and everyone wanted to be ready. The guy who walked in next wasn't just the director, he was the room. His name was Vincent, tall, confident, clean, like someone who knew exactly what he was doing. He smiled once, and started talking without pause. He said this wasn't a movie. This was a transformation, a performance that would be captured in real time. Raw, honest, no scripts, no fakes, no second takes. Everything we do would be part of the story, even our fear, our confusion, our silence. He handed us printed monologues. I got one about a man hearing voices in the walls. Someone else had a scene about digging a shallow grave. One girl had to describe a dream where she drowned slowly. We each went in front of the camera, one by one, did our lines, improvised reactions. There were no retakes, no direction, just his eyes behind the lens, watching. After everyone went, he clapped once, slow, dramatic, and said he'd be picking 7 of us for the main production. We'd be contacted privately, given exact shoot dates and location details. All he asked was trust and commitment. He said the story would be unlike anything filmed before, and that our roles were real as we could handle. 3 days later I got the email. It said I was selected for the lead group. Shoot would last 3 days. Full immersion, no phones, no contact with the outside world. All part of the psychological integrity of the project. We were told to pack, as if leaving for a retreat, bring dark clothes, basic toiletries, and no expectations. I arrived at the villa again. This time the gate was open, and the lights inside were already on. We were greeted by a man in black, who gave us key cards with our character names. I was called Mark. We weren't supposed to use our real names during the shoot. Every actor had a room assigned, labeled with white tape on the door. Camera equipment was everywhere, wires, generators, even a food station set up in the hall. It looked too real to be fake, and too fake to be dangerous. That's how it started. Quiet, clean, organized, like a movie set should be. Only later we realized it wasn't a set, and we weren't acting. The first night was quiet, too quiet. The lights were dimmed around 10, and we were told to stay in character at all times. We didn't get scripts, only situations. A knock at the door, a voice in the hallway, a scream in the basement. We were expected to react as if it were real, because that was the point, to forget we were acting, and just be. The next morning started with a loud bang on each room door. A man in a mask told us we had 5 minutes to get ready. We dressed quickly. Someone had already started filming. We could hear the camera rolling from the staircase. Vincent stood at the bottom, smiling, watching us descend like children arriving at a haunted summer camp. We were gathered in the dining room and given our first task, respond to a panic scene. A girl named Amber was instructed to scream from the top floor. We were told to run toward it. Cameras would follow us, no cuts, pure reaction. When she screamed, it was blood-curdling, real enough to make someone gasp. We rushed upstairs, yelling her name. But when we got to the top, the hallway was empty. No Amber, no sound, just a small streak of red paint on the wall. Vincent clapped, said we all did great, said the immersion had begun. Later, that day, we rehearsed a chase scene, the actor being chase tripped, and hit the floor hard, too hard. Someone ran to help, but Vincent yelled from behind the monitor, "Let it play out." So, we did. We stood there, watching him groan and bleed from his lip, thinking maybe this was part of the method. Maybe he knew how to fall just right, but something felt wrong. Something cracked inside the room, not the floor, but the feeling of control. That evening, the kitchen was locked. No dinner, no staff, no signal on our phones. They'd been taken on arrival and locked in a safe we never saw again. The only sounds were from the upstairs hallway, slow footsteps back and forth, and a metallic scrape, like something dragging across tile. When I asked the girl in the room next to mine if she heard it too, she didn't answer. She just stared at her door, like if she opened it, something would be waiting. The second night was different, colder, darker. One of the guys, Jamal, was supposed to film a confession scene in the basement. We never saw him again. When we asked, Vincent said Jamal's character had exited the story. That's what he called it, an exit, not a wrap, not a goodbye, just a quiet deletion. We began to whisper more, huddle in groups, double-check every sound. Someone finally asked the question we all had in our heads. Is this still a movie? Or are we already inside something else? No one wanted to say it out loud, but we all felt it. The scenes weren't scenes anymore. The pain looked too real. The fear wasn't acting. And the cameras, they never stopped, even when no one was around. They were always on, always watching, and we didn't know who else might be watching. 2. On the third day, the air felt heavier, like something was watching from the corners. Even when we were alone, the villa had changed. It wasn't just the cold or the silence. It was the way doors started creaking open on their own, or the way someone swore they heard Amber crying through the walls, even though she had disappeared 2 days ago. The cameras kept rolling. They were on every shelf, every doorway, every hallway, and no one seemed to be operating them anymore. They just moved slowly, panning side to side, like eyes waiting for something to happen. We started whispering behind closed doors, trying to understand if this was still a set or a trap. One of the girls, Rachel, said she was leaving. She didn't care if it ruined her role. She just wanted out. Vincent told her she could go, but she had to wait until sunset for security reasons. That's what he said. Security reasons. She sat in the dining room for hours, waiting, staring out the window that faced the front gate. And when sunset came, she was gone. Not a sound, not a goodbye, just gone. Like Jamal, like Amber. After that we started looking for exits. We tried the back door. It was sealed from the outside. The windows were bolted. The cellar door was chained from within. The kitchen cabinets were empty. The food had stopped coming. The lights flickered, like they were running off backup power. One guy named Evan tried to call for help from the rooftop, but there was no signal, just static. Even the walkie-talkie used by the crew was dead. We found it buried in a laundry basket, like someone had hidden it on purpose. Someone else found a phone in one of the storage closets. It belonged to a crew member, and it had only one message visible, a text that said, "Are the streams still live?" That was the moment we realized. This wasn't just being filmed, it was being broadcasted. Someone somewhere was watching everything live, not as a movie, but as an event. That night we were called into the basement for what Vincent called the final sequence. We thought maybe it was a confrontation scene. Maybe the film was ending. But what we saw wasn't scripted. It was real. A man in a mask dragging a body across the floor, and Vincent behind him smiling, not directing, just watching. when someone screamed and ran. He didn't say cut. He didn't say anything. The cameras turned to follow, and so did the masked man. He moved like he knew the layout, like he'd done this before, like we were just the next in line. That's when Lexi, the youngest one, ran. She didn't go for the doors. She went for the vents, the maintenance shaft behind the boiler room. We didn't know she even fit, but she slid inside and vanished into the dark, while the rest of us froze, hoping it was over. But it wasn't. The lights shut off, the doors locked, and we heard Vincent's voice over the speakers, telling us that the final act had begun, and that we should give them something to remember. We didn't know where Lexi went. We didn't know if she made it out, or if the vents led to another trap, but we hoped. We prayed in our heads, quietly, like kids hiding from a monster. We waited in silence, while footsteps moved above us. Someone was walking on the main floor, slowly, boots echoing against marble. Then we heard a click, like a switch being thrown, and a soft humming sound behind the walls. The lights came back on, but dimmer, red, like the glow of a dying fire. Vincent's voice came through again, telling us that we were now live, that every move we made was being streamed to thousands, that this was the moment of truth, where we could choose to survive, or entertain, and that either way, the show must end with a bang. Someone snapped a chair leg, and tried to force the cellar door, but it didn't budge. Another ran up the stairs, only to find the hallway blocked by heavy chains bolted into the wall. We were trapped, not just physically, but completely mentally exhausted. We started shouting for help, banging on the walls, screaming into the cameras, as if someone out. But it didn't budge. Another ran up the stairs, only to find the hallway blocked by heavy chains bolted into the wall. We were trapped, not just physically, but completely mentally exhausted. We started shouting for help, banging on the walls, screaming into the cameras, as if someone out there would stop watching and start doing something. But nothing happened, except the cameras zooming in slowly, as if enjoying the panic. Lexi was already deep in the woods, barefoot, covered in dust. She found a road before dawn, flagged down a truck driver who nearly ran her over. She told him everything, or at least tried to. The man called the police, and by 7 in the morning, multiple units were on their way to the location. She gave them the address, and GPS, and descriptions. They sent a team ahead, armed and ready. They thought they were breaking up a cult or hostage situation. They didn't know they were entering a live broadcast. When the first squad breached the gate, they found silence. The cameras were still on, still rolling. The villa seemed empty. They moved carefully, room by room, clearing hallways, calling out names, until someone stepped on a pressure plate near the dining room and triggered the detonation. It wasn't a fireball. It wasn't cinematic. It was pure destruction. The floor gave out. The ceiling collapsed. A chain of blasts ripping through the structure, like snapping bones in a body that had finally failed. There were no survivors. No bodies to identify. Just ash and melted steel. Lexi watched it all from the back of a police van, wrapped in a blanket, hands shaking, face blank. She was the only one left, the only one who made it out, and even now she doesn't know if that was part of the plan, because someone paid to watch that ending. Someone watched her escape. Someone knew where the cameras were, and where the explosives sat, and Vincent was never found. Not his name, not his face, not even a trace. She told her story again and again, but the files went missing. The footage disappeared. The streaming servers erased, or hidden, or bought. Silence costs money, and someone paid enough to bury it all. She lives quietly now, never answers her door, keeps curtains closed, and sleeps with a knife under her pillow. And sometimes at night, she swears she hears a faint hum, like a camera turning back on, If you're still listening, remember this. Subscribe before they make this story disappear too.